Midori telling Kanamori to calm down, girl, as she's explaining why they didn't need to animate lasers and how she was going to avoid the issue of clearly needing to portray something was shot and how it was shot down, was a feeling and mood I didn't know I wanted to experience, but gotta bless these characters because they know how to throw us for a loop. This episode was definitely a Kanamori focused episode, and I love that. I mean, I've said it for many weeks now. Kanamori is my favorite character in this anime season, and that is a feat in itself because there's not only a lot of great anime, but there's a lot of great lead characters. Hell, there's a lot of great supporting characters that could really be like, you know what, that's my favorite character of this season. And we've had some great Mizusaki content, backstory, current story to really flesh her out, but the other two, they definitely, while have had important moments, we really haven't gotten the same level of detail up until today. And we got the idea and understanding of how she became so business oriented. And a lot of what we saw with that simple backstory of a convenience store that was shutting down and how she was such a hard worker at such a young age really does explain why she does certain things at such still a young age, but why she acts like a 40-year-old businesswoman who feels like at any moment things are going to shut down, when really, logically, you could say, hey, they're still in school, they don't really have responsibilities as of yet, especially not in comparison to adulthood, so why do you have to really say we have to have this deadline, or why do we have to do this? We're not in any rush right now, we finished our projects on time, we could do something by ourselves, but when you, from such a young age, even if you struggled with math, you understood business, you understood that, hey, even if it's a snowstorm, if you open up, you're going to be the only store open, people have to come to you. The first place you shovel is in front of a vending machine because people in the cold are going to want a hot drink. The simple things that she was doing at such a young age, and how, because these two older people that she was helping with and who were giving her bonuses and things like that despite struggling financially themselves, even if it was just a little bit, the fact that they didn't have an eye for business the same way she did is obviously the reason why they had to shut down. And there's obviously contributing factors. I mean, people building around, stores opening up, it's hard to compete. It's kind of something that's always been there. Competition has always drove out other businesses in the long run, especially those that are a part of a chain and things like that. But still, there definitely, you can see just different ideas that probably could have saved them in the long run had she appeared in their life a year earlier or something like that. And it's super interesting to see how, because of that failure that she worked for and how she definitely probably has regret for that, is how she's driven her life forward to make sure that all the little things that most people are going to overlook, which obviously causes downfall in the long run, is why she's so determined to make this club succeed and to never let them fall into basically the abyss that so many people do. That was a fantastic backstory to really flesh out why a simple anime club of now really needs to keep their head on straight, because if they succeed here, once they're out of school, they're going to be ahead of the game. They might already have money in the bank that can basically let them start their own projects outside of school, get the equipment they need, get hired immediately into a studio or something like that. You can definitely understand how far she's planning into the future, and that over-planning at times can make you say, okay, she's definitely going overboard, until you see that backstory, and you really say, you know what, I don't think this is just someone who's a money-hungry girl or something like that. It's definitely like money, it drives the world around, and without money, you're not going to be able to survive. And I love that about this episode, and to really see how it starts off with such a basic idea. Like, they had a hit sensation of a project. And yeah, they didn't make a ton of money, but for a school project, that's pretty impressive. And yeah, if you go to certain markets or certain events or conventions, you could probably sell that and make a lot more money. And I can agree with her that they probably did deserve like 1.8 million yen for what they put in terms of hours and the quality of the product in general. But of course, realistically, you don't always get the return that you think you deserve and other people deserve, because the world's a bitch. That's probably the best way to put it. It really, really is. And it's interesting how, tied with the backstory and then tied with their future projects and what they're going to do, it really does explain not only Kanamori's character to a deeper level, but really, it makes you respect her addition to this cast all the more. I mean, I've always said it. If Kanamori took a day off, this project would fall apart. They'd be building a treehouse, they'd be goofing off, they would just have that mind of an artist of just wanting to, imagine what could be done instead of actually creating it. And when they start creating it, they're going to get lost in time wanting to animate a single frame that no one's going to notice except for one person out of a million. But that's just how their minds operate. So you need that business persona. You need that person who's really going to keep you realistic, keep you grounded to reality, following the schedule, and make sure it all finishes on time. She's always been a valuable asset. There's not a single character out of this trio that is disposable. They all have importance in different and unique ways. You want that kind of creative side to basically be an artist and create the idea in question, have the backgrounds, have the storyboard and the story in general be made. You want that realistic immersion and great animation, and you need that business to make sure that things stay according to plan, but also keep you grounded and make sure you don't spend away your finances on ramen because you needed an extra couple of breaks. No, we're gonna buy you 1 cup of ramen a day. You go over that, you gotta use your own money. Like, that's the type of character she is, and it was so nice to see how they explored that, and with such beautiful imagery. I am a sucker for anything. Basically, my preference for art is either completely photorealistic or as abstract and unrefined as it comes. I'm very peculiar about that, where a lot of times people who like abstract, they don't really like realism, and people like realism don't really like abstract, or just things that aren't completely refined. There's loose line work, there's colors that go outside the lines, it's not fully colored in. That type of expressive animation I love, and it's super interesting to see how they portrayed that backstory, which is arguably one of the more interesting locations that I think we've seen. I mean, for a snowstorm, for a convenience store, it's a pretty basic thing. I mean, a snowstorm, you usually can't see much because it's just snow blowing as far as the eye can see. It's white. It's not much you can really do with that design. And a convenience store, while you can have some different products on the shelf, like, what can you really do? But because of the style they chose, that's even more expressive, I'd argue, than the current style, the normal style that they use for these characters. It really brought a pretty dull scene to life in one of the most believable ways I think we've seen to date. I mean, you really got a sense of wonder of like getting an extra 500 yen. You just saw the characters light up or just really be themselves. They felt quite human in a scene that was completely unrefined to allow for more expressive visuals and just storytelling overall. To separate the backstory from the current animation and current story in general, it just delivered something that was completely mesmerizing to me, and it really did get across that emotion and made you immediately understand, like, even if you weren't completely on board with Kanamori, weren't completely on board with how far she pushes the business side, I think this backstory will definitely open a lot of people's eyes, and for those of us who've already loved her addition to the story, it just makes us respect her all the more. I think this show just knows how to be almost like we're children. We're like children walking down the street. We're imagining things in our head. I mean, I'm sure plenty of people watching the show, they feel themselves in these characters as if, you know, when we were younger, we're always, you know, we'd look at a tree and imagine if that tree would come to life and we'd fight it. You know, just that imagination, that playtime that we'd always have with friends or even just by ourselves. It just feels like they still have that. And the people who don't lose that imagination wonder are the ones who create the best art, in my honest opinion. There's plenty of artists who just, they do their job. They're technically skilled, but they lack creative freedom. And I think those who have that creative freedom are the best artists in the world. Maybe they don't get the respect they deserve, maybe they don't always get hired because they want to do something a little more interesting and the corporation is trying to hold them down to say, no, this is the style we use. But I mean, you can definitely tell a project such as this anime and just the characters in this project, this isn't being held down. This is creative freedom, and you really wish you could see more anime have that liberty and that idea. I mean, it does help that the source material is all about the wonders of creating anime, and of course we got an amazing director helming this, but at the same time, it definitely feels to me like this is a call out to the anime industry to say, hey, we're always about saying we got to have the most crisp and polished character models. We have to follow the template and trends that have been here for years, but no, we don't. We really, really don't. And the success and popularity of this show, both within Japan and outside Japan, is showing that we can do things a little bit different, that we don't always have to make sure that everything is to this template or to this degree. We can be a little more wild, and it's good to have still certain studios, certain mangas, certain directors and animators, and just honestly production committees in general still seeing the potential of things that are a little different, that are a little wild, that are going to look a little goofy and pretty expressive all in the process. And you really did get something special with this week's episode. I mean, Kanamori being my favorite character, having her be a star of an episode, of course, is going to be one of my favorite episodes of the anime to date, but it was nice to see all the characters have the potential and time to shine in their own unique ways, how they're creating their UFO project, which I am so excited to see. It'll be interesting to see if we get to see the completion in this season or not, because I kind of feel like we're getting a season 2. I don't know. I mean, everyone always says that, right? You know, they like an anime. We're definitely getting a season 2. But you never totally know. They could go it with episode 12, wrap it up in such a way that everyone involved in the project, watching the project, are going to say, it's good to stop here. But it also just kind of feels like there's still so much possibility, and depending on how passionate the studio is, the production committee is, we definitely could see more of this anime, and I hope so. I mean, it just feels so good and so unique, so refreshing. It's funny, it can be dramatic, but it's just inspiring all in the process. And who doesn't want to feel that when watching anime? I mean, a lot of us get burnt out, or we just feel like we know what to expect with anime, and then we watch an anime like this and we're just like, we still have so much left to see. And that's always a refreshing feeling, especially if you've been watching anime for a long time, to still have these wonders that just make us feel like this is the first anime we've ever seen. It's a damn good feeling. This was a great episode, as always. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Favorite moments, source material readers, anime originals, whatever you're feeling, let me know. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you have been new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.